One property appraiser tells us his business has tripled. He says wealthy Americans are worried about a potential tax hike after November and want to put things in order before then. Many are now rushing to finish their taxes before the end of the year. NTD's Phil Zhou has the details.
Some wealthy Americans are revising their estate plans. They're concerned about a potential tax hike on their property and assets after the November election.
There's an expectation at the end of a year that taxes will be higher.
Right now, the wealthy can leave about $11 million to their family, free of estate or gift taxes. But Democrats want to raise taxes back to where they were before Trump's tax bill. This could slash the tax exemption in half, down to $5.5 million. Tax and estate planning related businesses are seeing a flurry of new clients.
This year, we've seen our tax-related work roughly triple the heaviest volume that we've seen in our 30-plus year history.
Miller says wealthy Americans are being proactive. They want to finish their taxes before the year's end.
And they're looking for any signs or clues or evidence or probability that there will be a change in tax policy.
Miller expects the wave of new business to continue.
I suspect we'll probably continue this until mid-December.
Phil Zhou, NTD News.
In 2016, most polls predicted a landslide victory for Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton. But against the odds, 3 models said Donald Trump would win. Here's what they're projecting for the 2020 election.
2 of the 3 models that predicted a Trump win in 2016 predict that he'll win again in 2020. The first model is the S&P 500 is based on stock market returns. If it's above average leading up to the election, the incumbent is predicted to win. The average return for the S&P 500 is 13.6%. This year is up about 19%. That's above average, signaling another Trump win. The second is the primary model. It relies on presidential primaries and the election cycle. This year has been calibrated to predict the Electoral College result. It forecasts 362 votes for Trump and 176 for Biden. It says Trump has a 91% chance of winning this year. The last one is called the Keys to the White House. It's a true or false test based on 13 key factors about the incumbent administration. If 5 or fewer of the factors are false, the incumbent party wins. This year predicts a narrow Biden victory, but the prediction may be partly based on subjective factors. For example, Key 11 rules that Trump hasn't achieved any major success in foreign or military affairs, and Key 12 rules that Trump is not charismatic or a national hero. Both of these answers could be argued. If these 2 questions were flipped, then the model would swing in President Trump's favor.
U.S. flags made and sold in China, but now authorities stopping residents from buying them. This as a group of residents wanted the flags to show support for President Trump. NTD's Tiffany Meyer brings us more.
Now we look to a group of Chinese citizens who are standing up to Chinese security officers. That's after the guards cracked down on the group's planned show of support for the U.S. U.S. President Trump has taken a hardline stance against the Chinese Communist Party. Despite anti-Trump propaganda circulating in China, some citizens have expressed support for him. Earlier this month, the U.S. president was diagnosed with the CCP virus. In response, a group from the southwestern city of Chongqing planned an event aiming to hold dozens of U.S. flags and share photos online. On the photos, they had planned to write, "Citizens of Chongqing support President Trump's re-election and maintaining a civilized world order." But the plan was never realized. That's because the local security office got involved. Huang Yang, who was to buy the American flags online, has faced long-term scrutiny and monitoring by local security officers. During a phone call with friends, he confirmed he would buy the U.S. flags. According to a Chinese netizen familiar with the situation, the city's security office was alerted to their plan and brought him in for interrogation last week. The same person told us the American flags were all made and sold in China. Nothing was obtained illegally. He's now questioning what the CCP are afraid of, adding that the party already controls the country's guns, media, and money.
Trump supporters drove their boats out to the San Francisco Bay to show their support for President Trump ahead of the upcoming election. The boat parade also featured #1 Billboard music artist Joy Villa.
Boats carrying hundreds of Trump supporters sailed through the waters of San Francisco Bay. The boats were decked with pro-Trump and pro-American imagery. Asian Americans had a strong presence. The flag of South Vietnam was seen among the attendees and up in the sky. One Trump supporter from Hong Kong said the people at the parade acknowledge and appreciate what Trump has done over the years.
Most of us, we are awake, we have common sense, we understand what Trump has done to this country. He has so many executive orders, there's so many policies that he did.
American singer, actress, and conservative activist Joy Villa also joined the boat parade. She performed some of her songs, including Make America Great Again. Her inspiration comes from personal values and lived experiences.
Being a conservative now, someone who walked away, who was a liberal, my songs were always all about freedom. My songs were always about, self-empowerment and a belief in yourself and a belief in God. I'm a Christian woman. I love my country. I'm pro-life. So now my music has been very much centered upon even more freedom.
Villa was joined by local singer Diana Nagy, who has been traveling around the country since 2007. She said the boat parade would help other Trump supporters in San Francisco know that there are others like them out there.
The people think they're alone for Trump supporters here in San Francisco, the belly of the beast. They see us and it gives them inspiration and hope. When you see others with Trump's gear on in California, it's like, yeah!
The boat parade headed toward the Golden Gate Bridge from McCoy Cove. Landgoers were encouraged to stand along the San Francisco shoreline and show their support. Reporting by Eileen Ang and Don Tran, NTD News.
On Thursday, an official at the World Health Organization said lockdowns shouldn't be the primary way to control the virus. His statement came out around the same time a petition by medical practitioners began against lockdown measures. The petition now has more than 22,000 signatures. Our reporter Kevin Hogan spoke with one of the signatories about what measures he suggests instead of lockdowns.
A Stanford professor of medicine says lockdowns in the U.S. meant to slow the spread of the virus or flatten the curve were likely a panic response to outbreaks seen in China and Italy in the early stages. Dr. Bhattacharya postulates the reasoning behind the lockdowns has changed since then.
I think lockdowns have transmuted into another goal in mind, essentially to keep the spread in the community low until such time as there's a vaccine. That's something I call a zero COVID policy.
But he says that policy has failed. That's because lockdowns may work for a short period of time, but people will inevitably come out of their homes. What's more, the WHO's special envoy for the virus, Dr. David Nabarro, advocates against lockdowns as a primary means of controlling the virus. He told The Spectator on October 8th that lockdowns should only be used to regroup resources and protect exhausted health workers. Now, Professor Bhattacharya is calling on all Americans, and everyone worldwide for that matter, to ask the following questions of their leaders.
Why are we continuing to have these lockdowns? These broad-based lockdowns are not the right way to protect vulnerable people from COVID. There are much, much smarter ways to do it. Why aren't we adopting those strategies? Why have we continued these lockdowns that cause so much harm and so much strife?
The WHO estimated the lockdown's impact on the global food supply chain could cause up to 130 million more people to go hungry in 2020. Dr. Bhattacharya is one of more than 22,000 medical experts who signed the Great Barrington Declaration, calling for an end to lockdowns, saying they are causing irreparable damage. Yet he says we must protect the elderly who are vulnerable, and he offers ways to do just that.
Use Social Security money or use workplace disability accommodation laws to permit people who are vulnerable in the workplace to have time off when there's community spread.
According to a Yale study, for people under 70 years old, only around 5 out of 10,000 die after being infected. Dr. Bhattacharya says with this low risk, young people should go out and live their lives instead of being locked down, which causes more harm. He says epidemics end when enough people who are not vulnerable get the disease, which leads to population immunity. But he says we just need to protect the vulnerable in the meantime. Kevin Hogan, NTD News, New York.